right?
I don't think I'm good enough in this spot based on my own personal mental health, so I can't continue.
The first problem is with the owner of the Carolina Panthers, okay? You're an idiot. Seriously, you're an idiot.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of The Rome Show here on 12ouncesports.com. Broadcast live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Dingo TV, channel 217. I am your host, Andrew Romanella. I got you until about 7:30 or so today here on The Rome Show. Stick with us. We let you know at the beginning of every show that you got to get us on the social media, The Rome Show 1, Instagram, X, Facebook, TikTok, the whole 9 yards. Just follow us if you want any action on the show. We got a good one for you today. If you listened to the Rome Show yesterday, we talked about how we were going to start today with some Major League Baseball, and then my Miami Dolphins, the Finns, the Tua Tagovailoa-led Finns, the Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle Finns are taking on the Josh Allen, Sean McDermott Buffalo Bills on Thursday Night Football tonight. 8:15. That is a Miami Dolphins home game. So we got that to break down today as well. So a full jam-packed show for you here. Like I said, before getting on the action. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube or 12ouncesports.com, you can comment live on the show and we can get that commentary right back to you. So a plethora of ways you can get in on the action. We'll leave that up to you. We'll leave the talking up to me. Let's get directly into our action today. So a little of a correct congratulations we got today to start the show for A'ja Wilson, the center from the Las Vegas Aces. A'ja Wilson set the single-season WNBA scoring record yesterday with a 2-point bucket midway through the game against the Indiana Fever. That gave A'ja Wilson 941 points during the 2024 WNBA season. That is a new single-season WNBA scoring record for A'ja Wilson and a new record for the WNBA. The previous record was held by Jewell Loyd, and that was last season. She accomplished that record at 939 points. A'ja Wilson is a two-time league MVP and is averaging 27.3 points and 11.9 rebounds per game. Give it up for A'ja Wilson, the new single-season NBA scoring record leader. The Las Vegas Aces have 4 games remaining on their regular season schedule. They currently sit at 23-13. They are the number 4 team in the standings right now if the regular season was to end today. But it is a very tight race as to who's going to finish 4th, 5th, and even 3rd and 6th, depending on how those last 4 games go. But it's between the Aces or the Seattle Storm hosting that 4-5 playoff matchup. The Aces looking for a three-peat in the WNBA. The way I look at that, if A'ja Wilson just scores her average over the next 4 games, she's going to put that single season record over 1,000 points. And it is going to be very impressive. I also like to say this. If you noticed, last year was when the single season WNBA scoring record was broken. And now this year we've broken it again. That is a good sign for the WNBA. No, you do not want every year a quote unquote major record being broken. But at the end of the day, if you want to prove that the league is getting better, that the league's talent is improving, then you're going to have to start seeing some of those records break. That's just a fact. So you take this record broken by A'ja Wilson and it broken last year by Jewell Loyd, and you say to yourself, that's a good thing. more records in women's basketball over the last 6 years from the NCAA to the NBA have been broken, and that is a good thing. The talent pool is getting greater. The want to play women's basketball is getting greater. And when that happens, by nature, you'll begin to grow the game, both from the standpoint of the amount of young ladies playing women's basketball, but then also with the talent level. So then you get a Kelsey Plum who breaks the NCAA record a few years ago. And then you get a Caitlin Clark who can do the exact same thing. You get names that people know coming into the WNBA, and then you continually do things that haven't done before, like push the limits on how many points can be scored in a given year. So all good things for the WNBA, and the play on the floor is equally as entertaining, which is huge for the league. And when the league's best players perform like the league's best players, which means more are going to come watch, that is also great for the league as well. We will touch on that game a little bit later when we get to Daily Bananas, because if you were listening to the show yesterday, and by the way, if you missed any part of the show, or you want to listen at a completely different time, maybe 7 a.m. doesn't fit your schedule as well, you can get the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search the Rome Show podcast. All right. I think it's time for a little baseball because a lot is going on in Major League Baseball right now. Some big games happened yesterday. And I'll tell you what, there is going to be a legitimate race down the stretch, especially for the National League wild card. The Mets had a huge victory yesterday against the Toronto Blue Jays. They were down in this game going into the top of the ninth. They did not have many hits, only 4 on the day, but they made those hits count, especially late. And the Mets take a 6-2 victory over the Blue Jays. Why that is huge is because the Atlanta Braves, they played the Washington Nationals yesterday, a not very good 15 games under 500 Washington Nationals team, and they lost 5-1 with Max Fried on the hill. So the Braves now drop out of wild card contention and are 1 game behind the Mets for the 3rd wild card position. The Arizona Diamondbacks are starting to play a little bit better baseball, neutralizing their little bit of a lead. And then the Padres were off last night. So let's take a look real quick at the National League wild card standings. If you're watching online, you can see it on the screen. So the Diamondbacks have a slim 2-game lead over the Padres for the top wild card positioning. It is a 2-game lead over the Mets for the top wild card positioning, a half game, over the San Diego Padres. The Mets are 1.5 back from the Padres. Then you have the Bravos sitting there 1 game behind the Mets. If you look all the way to the right side column, that is the most important information right now. What has gone on streak-wise and what has gone on in the last few games. The bottom line is, if you're the Diamondbacks, the Padres, the Mets, or the Braves, so if you're in this 4-team race for the National League wild card, you cannot afford any type of streak that is not W and a number. If you have any bit of a losing streak right now, even if it's 2 games, which I know some people might not consider a streak, but either way, you lose 2 in a row right now in this stretch of games, it's going to be very difficult to bounce back from that. Now, you could break down all 4 schedules. The way I see this thing, it's a 3-headed race for 2 wild card spots. I think the Diamondbacks have neutralized their ship. And by the way, everyone, I don't know if you remember this, but the Arizona Diamondbacks, they went to the World Series last year. That is who the Texas Rangers beat in the World Series last year. So this team knows what it takes to get through a run late in September and into October and push that run into the type of winning that they want to do. So I guess, yes, in theory, could the Diamondbacks still falter out here? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I think that they are the team of these four, one based on their positioning and two based on their experience, that I think is going to end up finding their way into the exact same spot they're sitting right now. The Padres, the Mets, the Braves, on the other hand, I don't know, okay? And I was saying this to somebody yesterday. It would be so New York Mets if they were to do this entire run to get yourself back into contention, get yourself out of the basement, get yourself over 80 wins, put yourself in this spot right here, win 9 in a row, all the things. It would be so New York Mets, as we talked about yesterday on the show, deep-rooted in organization history, for them to then all of a sudden lose 2 or 3 to the terrible Blue Jays, right? That is what not championship quality teams do. Well, when you watch the Mets go out and squeak out that victory last night on a bad hitting day, on a team that they should have beaten 2 in a row and they only split 1-1, you say, okay, but that's what great teams do. Winning teams find a way to win that game, right? And that's exactly what the Mets did last night. But it's going to be a race down the stretch. And so this is the National League wild card. That Mets-Braves teeter-totter is going to be interesting because check this out. Now we're going to take the wild card off and we're going to put the Mets' remaining schedule on the docket. Here's the deal. Okay, the Mets have 7 against the Philadelphia Phillies coming up, including this Friday the 13th, starting tomorrow, a 3-game series. So the Mets, 7 of their next 10 games are against the Philadelphia Phillies. 13 of the Mets' next 13 games are against the National League East. They also have 3 remaining against the Braves. So I believe the Mets quite possibly have the hardest path right now to finding a way to finishing off this run to a wild card positioning, because you're playing in the next 13 games, you're playing the Phillies 7 and the Braves 3. And then, oh, by the way, you finish the year with the Brewers, who, as you'll learn in a little bit, are outperforming their predictions, both human and analytically, all year, and are trending towards winning the NL Central. So you have to play 13 games against essentially playoff contenders if you're the Mets down the stretch. So that's going to be a super difficult schedule. It's not like they can't navigate it. Now's the time. They've been playing great baseball, but we'll see what happens with that schedule. If you take a look at the other team that they're fighting against, this would be the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves have a more interesting schedule remainder of the way. They only have one NL East team on their docket, and it's quite possibly the worst NL East team in the Miami Marlins. But then they have to work. They got 4 against the Dodgers, 3 against KC, 3 against the Mets. Okay, so I guess I said that wrong. 6 games. They have 6 games against the NL East. I'm an idiot. And another set against Cincy, KC, and Miami. So I think I just pulled up the wrong one for you here. That is completely my fault. 4 against the Dodgers, 3 against the Mets, 3 against KC, 3 against Cincy, and 3 against Miami. So they have 6 total against the NL East, but they have to face the Dodgers, who are quite possibly the best team in Major League Baseball, and the Kansas City Royals, who are also fighting for their lives. So a lot, right? A lot can happen here in the late aspect of the season. So we'll see what goes on down the stretch. If you were wondering what's going on the AL side of this, here you go. I got the standings up on the board for you right now. So right now, the Baltimore Orioles have a commanding lead of that first wild card spot. They are 3 games ahead of the aforementioned Kansas City Royals, and the Kansas City Royals are a game and a half ahead of the Twins, who currently hold the 3rd wild card spot. Now, I don't think that this division is going to have much change. The Tigers have been playing great baseball. Like the last month and a half of the year, the Detroit Tigers have done everything they can to put themselves in this race. But unfortunately, sometimes that is just a little bit too late. They're currently on a 4-game winning streak, which is absolutely what they need to do. I just don't think they're going to have enough to catch the Twins. And if they do, you also have to remember, you got to hope for the team in front of you to falter as well. Like a few days ago, we were talking about how the Royals were on like a 6-game losing streak. You're watching that happen if you're the Twins and you're like, all right, here we go. This is something we could work off of here. And then bam. And by the way, the schedule that I had up on the board before remaining is the Twins schedule. So here's the Twins remaining schedule. So 3 against Cincinnati, 4 against the NL Central leading Cleveland Guardians, also out kicking their punt coverage on the 2024 season, 3 against the faltering Red Sox, 3 against the Marlins, and then 3 against the Baltimore Orioles, who are presumably going to be trying to lock up that wild card 1 spot. I don't know if the Baltimore Orioles will be finding themselves into the playoffs via the winning of the AL East. They still are in contention. They are 1.5 games back of the New York Yankees for the AL East. The only other division that may, and I say may super lightly because I don't think the Seattle Mariners are good enough, nor have they been playing good enough, even with the Astros faltering, going 4 for 6 in their last 10 and losing 3 straight. The Mariners are 3.5 back of the Astros in the West. I just don't know if they're a good enough team to make up that difference over the last 16 to 17 games. So with less than 20 games remaining in Major League Baseball season, there is a lot. There's a lot that can happen. And this is now the exciting time for baseball. The last thing I'll say before our commercial break is this. I've talked a lot on this show about minimizing the size of the Major League Baseball calendar. Okay. I think 162 games is way too many. And why is because the moment that we are in right now, where every game matters, every pitch matters, every moment matters, that to me is so much fun. Okay. And so I think you lose the allure of that, right? You lose that allure when you're talking about 162 games, when you have games in June and July that are absolutely just atrocious. And if you think about the Chicago White Sox as the example, you think about the Los Angeles Angels, you think about these teams that have just been terrible. It's got to be a miserable final 40 to 50 home games because there's nobody in the stadium. I believe that looks worse. And I think the COVID 2020 season showed us what baseball is like when you're in a snapshot season, a shortened season with way more action. Give me 140 games. That gives each team 70 home and 70 away. You could probably cut the season by almost a full month. What rest that gives the players, how much healthier are the arms going to be long-term, and how much more exciting is it? Because that's the extra 16 games we're talking about right now, right? That's the extra 20 I just cut off, the 22 I've cut off the season. So that means we'd be in the postseason right now, while the National Football League is in week 1, 2, 3. Therefore, baseball has its due. You get to October, now you're talking about football fighting for playoffs. You're talking about we're deep in the NFL grind. It's almost impossible to win those ratings. And it's almost impossible to win people to want to watch your sport. I get the money. I get how it's hard to lose. It would be 11 gates. If you took 22 games away, it'd be 11 gates for each home team they'd lose, meaning money they make for home game. So I get all that stuff, but I got to imagine there's something we can do with the schedule here because I think we've reached a point where we need to scale it back a little bit in Major League Baseball. I'm not going to scale anything back when we get back from this commercial break. We're talking Dolphins, we're talking Bills, we're talking Thursday night football, and we're making our daily bananas. You better get yourself ready here. The Rome Show, 12ouncesports.com, Dingo TV, channel 217.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them.
Yeah.
Baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ozsports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
Yeah, it's the Rome Show here. 12ouncesports.com, Dingo TV channel 217. We're being electric here on the Rome Show, RomeShowShop.com. We got some football coming up for you today. I am fired up. We get another run at watching the Miami football Dolphins perform their football activities on the field. The Dolphins 1-0, host the Buffalo Bills 1-0. In Miami at 8:15 p.m. tonight on Thursday Night Football. You know what? Honestly, I think it's Prime. It could be Netflix. It might be Hulu. There's a possibility it's on Apple. It could be on the ESPN app. Maybe it's on Sling TV or YouTube TV. Honestly, good luck, everybody, with the streaming services. I talk radio now. So I'm excited about this game, because I was reading up on some statistics last night, and I got some daily data for the people. Here it is. The Buffalo Bills are 13-2 in the last 15 games against the Miami Dolphins. In that time, the Bills have averaged 31.7 points per game, so that's been since 2017. And Josh Allen is 11-2 with 41 touchdowns. Sean McDermott has been the head coach of the Buffalo Bills for every single one of those Josh Allen 11-2 victories since 2017. So, lastly, this game has been put at 48.5 points. And right now, my page is reloading. They have the Dolphins as -2.5 point favorites. Okay. And I got to tell you, I don't know. And I mean that honestly. Okay. Because this is a Buffalo Bills team that I don't know what anyone expected going into this year. I didn't know what I expected going into this year. I don't know what their wide receiver core was going to be like. Never really had a feeling on, if they're going to be that great of a team, all the things, okay? And they come out on week one, and I know we talked about this on the show. Josh Allen had what felt like a miraculous day to help lead the squad. They need a better running game. All right. James Cook, only running back. You can't have Josh Allen running for 40, 50 yards a game. Josh Allen comes into this game a little banged up already week 2 because he runs the football so much for the Buffalo Bills. But they're that team that finds a way. There's just that team. They were 5-5 last year. People are talking about how good are they going to be, win 5 straight, make it to the postseason, look like a fantastic football team. Those are the things that good organizations do, and that's who the Bills are right now. So for the Dolphins to be favored 2.5 on this, I'm thinking that's just because it's in Miami. If you flip this script and we put ourselves in Buffalo, you'd probably take the Bills at like a 3 or a 3.5 point favorite. I think this is going to be a high scoring affair. I think Tua is going to throw for like over 40 attempts. Why? Because both running backs for the Miami Dolphins are banged up right now. Raheem Mostert and Achane, both possibly game time decisions. Hopefully one of them plays. But if neither of them play, it's a completely different backfield for the Miami Dolphins. And as we talked the other day about the San Francisco 49ers, the Dolphins aren't deep-rooted in their greatness, okay? There has been greatness. Okay, there has been historical events, 1972, only undefeated season in history. Dan Marino, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Ace Ventura even. No, I'm just kidding. There have been great moments for the Dolphins, but they are not by any stretch of the imagination a great organization yet. A historically finds a way organization. And as the numbers show, 13-2 in the last 15 games, but furthermore, with Josh Allen at the quarterback, they are 11-2. And Josh Allen has done whatever he wants against the Miami Dolphins. You have to think about Josh Allen this way. Since we were just talking about baseball and we were just talking about the Mets, for any of my Mets fans out there, Josh Allen is to the Miami Dolphins as Chipper Jones was to the Mets. There's just... You could do anything you want. You could hit Chipper Jones and somehow he's still going to find a way to go 3 for 3 that day. You can intentionally walk him every at bat and somehow he's going to find a way to be the best player on the field and your team's going to feel it. It's the same thing with Josh Allen, right? He could throw 3 picks in the first 3 passes. You could be down. You could be beating him 21-0 and somehow, some way at the end of the game, you're like, wow, what a game by Josh Allen, or what effort from Josh Allen, or the Buffalo Bills were in it once Josh Allen figured, So it goes as Josh Allen goes. So that's the first side of this game that you'll be watching tonight. How healthy is he? It's his non-throwing hand, okay? So it's shouldn't affect his throwing ability, but, pain is pain. And if he's going to run the football 8 to 12 times a game and take some of the beating that he does, that could become a factor later on in that game. The other side of the coin is that running back room for the Miami Dolphins. Devon Achane, we'll see if he can play. They have Jeff Wilson Jr. Raheem Mostert's really more or less there for the small downs, the hopefully get us into the end zone type situation. But they used 5 different running backs over the course of their week 1 game. Now, I'm all about running back by committee if you don't think you should be paying a dude X amount of dollars, but I'm not about not being able to get your running back room over 81 rushing yards. I just don't think that is sustainable. Having Tua throw the football 37 times. Now, granted, down in this game, okay, had to throw the football, okay, had to make a comeback, all of those things, but you need to establish the run. There needs to be some type of run action establishment for the Miami Dolphins if they want this offense to be elite. At some point in time, you're always going to get Tyreek 80 yards a game. If he breaks a tutty, he does. You're probably going to get Jalen Waddle 60 to 70 yards a game. But that's not sustainable offensively if those are the only 2 things you can do. We have to be able to run the football. You have to be able to move the ball downfield in multiple areas. So that's what I'm going to be looking at on both sides of the coin tonight. How is the running game for the Miami Dolphins? And can Tua, if he has to throw the ball 40 times, not turn the football over? And what is Josh Allen like? And can he continue to mix the ball around to his reckless set of receivers? Because it doesn't matter who's catching the ball as long as they're catching it. And we'll see. I am going to start the Daily Bananas music because that is how we are picking our bananas. Thursday Night Football. That's right. Let me give you what happened yesterday first. I told you Caitlin Clark was not going to score more than 23.5. She scored 16, so we got the check mark there. I took Caitlin Clark at over 3.5 3-pointers. She attempted 10 of them, but unfortunately, she only made 1 of them. And for some reason, Las Vegas has the number of the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark, and they are now, the Fever are 0-3 with Caitlin Clark under 20 points in all 3 games against the Las Vegas Aces. So we went 1-1 in our WNBA affair. But as we mentioned earlier, the Metsies won 6-2, and I chose the Mets on the money line. So it was a 2-1 day yesterday. And oh, by the way, my record improves to 86-67. So we are trending in the right direction here on Daily Bananas. If you're wondering what we are going to take tonight, I got you right here. We are going to take the game total. So the game total is 48.5. We are going to take the game total as over tonight. I just don't know if either of these teams have good enough defenses to keep the other team from not scoring 24 points. 24 points puts you at 48, and I do think both offenses are better than that. So I'm going to take over the 48.5, and then I am going to take Josh Allen at 2+ touchdowns. Okay, I can get him at 1+ on ESPN for -115, or I can get him at 2+ for +500. I just think he is the primary offense for the Bills, and I think he's going to be ball in his hands a lot. If you want a bonus one in this game, I would take Jalen Waddle at whatever his over is in receiving, okay? Each site's going to have it differently. The one I'm looking at on ESPN gives you a few different ones you could choose, or you could choose the 54.5 or whatever it is. If you're finding Jalen Waddle in the mid-50s at the over, you want to take that. He had a really good opening weekend, but the two I'm taking definitely are over 48.5 points, Josh Allen 2+ TDs, and hopefully a Miami Dolphins victory. I'm not putting my money on that because I don't trust it yet, but I will just tell you I'm hoping that is the case. I hope you enjoyed the Rome Show today. 12ouncesports.com, Dingo TV, channel 217. I am Andrew Romanella. I am telling you to be electric, just like we tell you at RomeShowShop.com. Hey, if you missed any of it, get the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 a.m. Peace!
Thank you for listening.